friends who are in the other part of the world, in US. First and foremost, I would like to thank Dr. Indramani and Dr. Syed, and of course Professor Gajendra Singh for giving this platform to speak and share my thoughts on what skill sets the younger generation must have to do problem solving. And I will narrate this through some example case studies on the projects that my group has been conducting for last 4 or 5 years at IIT Bombay. Most of the recent projects I will touch base upon. And actually, to my young friends and more very young friends, it's some kind of a shifting of gear now from what the earlier speaker talked about, because the context is totally different. You know, in USA, for example, you have the smallest size of farm to be 200 hectares or 300 hectares. And very few people, as the speaker talked about, very few people to do this farming. Whereas in India, the conditions are exactly the other way around. You have large number of small farm holders, and you have still about 50 to 55, 60% people engaged in farming. So the context here is different. And as the earlier speaker spoke, I just want to catch one phrase. He said, more from less. Dr. Manoj, if you're still there, I would like to add one more phrase to it. I would like to say more from less for more. So if we can sort of do whatever a technology choice for, you know, more from less for more, it would be a sort of a great thing to do. I would sort of give this. Normally what happens is, like any lecture or any talk that one gives, it must be like a storytelling. And a story is very effectively told if you see your audience in front of you. So now it is really a challenging task. I don't see my young audience in front of me, neither in person nor virtually. So it is going to be a task. I will try to take you through my 20 slides and some video clips, and I hope Murphy doesn't come into play here. You know, I think all of you know what was Murphy's law. If something has to go wrong, it will. So let's can we move to the next slide, please? Yeah, so this was the introduction which Dr. Syed already gave. So I would like to go to my next slide. Yeah, so the first line what I have said is engineers, like all of us here, need to solve problems. And if you do not solve problems, nobody will heed you, not the community, not your own peers, not your even family. So you have to solve problems. Now, in order to do the problem solving, I have put some 6-7 verbs here. What are the tasks of an engineer? What does the engineer do? So the engineer does, he observes in order to correctly define a solvable problem. When I say a solvable problem, for example, you can also put a problem definition saying that remove the poverty, or eliminate the poverty, or you can simply say double the farmer's income in next 5 years. So these are, for example, a large set of problems. Whereas if an engineer or a team of engineers is sort of given a problem definition, you need to observe, you need to see closely. Next is measure. So we have been hearing, for example, on the second day we had Dr. Syed and then Mr. Barure talk to us about what is the measurement, how do you do instrumentation, how do you parameterize your process, for example, and where, how much, and how do you estimate those parameters to solve the problem. Then, of course, once you have defined your problem, you have estimated, put the parameters, the sort of independent variable and dependent variable and things like that. Then you design the process, or you design the equipment. Then input and output, and as all engineers know, that you have on the numerator you have output, and on the denominator you have input. So what that defines is an efficiency. So when you design, you have to design for an efficient process. Then once you have designed, you have, have your concoction, then you construct or build your prototype. And once you have the prototype, you do pilot testing. And as we say, the first principle in engineering, first time things don't work. So you'll have to iterate on your pilots. Then you get a pilot, for example, your process, which you sort of do a pilot testing and which is reasonably good, gives the confidence to the engineer or the engineering team that now the process is ready to be sort of, put it in the field, install it, operate it, maintain it. And once you have installed it, once the sort of machinery, once the equipment, once the process has been put it at the site, then you need to monitor the parameters like efficiency, performance, yields. So these are some of the verbs, for example, these are some of the tasks that lifelong you will have to do, you will have to conduct. Next slide, please. Next slide. Yeah. So particularly, for example, you will see this of late, these phrases like end-to-end problem solving, for example. And there's a lot of literature on this. What is end-to-end problem solving? How do you identify a problem? Like, for example, the earlier speaker, Dr. Manoj, clearly said that we are here to solve existing problems. Unless you give solutions to the problems that are existing, nobody is going to look at your technological solution or technological design or technological process that you have come up with. And then design thinking, for example. There's a lot of scholarly articles these days. You are in the right, next slide please, you are in the right times, for example, that you have a lot of material. Next slide please, next slide. So you are in the right time. At our times, for example, when we did our BTech and Masters and PhDs even, we didn't have so much of internet, and we didn't have the information right at our desk. You had to go to library, you had to do your literature review in some other forms. Okay, so in order to bring you to the context, for example, the context that COVID-19 has given to us, has put us to these kinds of difficulties, and when I was trying to do some kind of a SWOT, I think most of you would have learned or would have heard about what is SWOT analysis. So it's nothing but strength, weakness, opportunities, and threats. So these four things, I have put it in 4 different quadrants. And as you see in the upper 2 quadrants, you have 2 things which are opportunities and threats. And I would call these are externalities. So all the opportunities that come to you or all threats that come to you, these are your externalities. You don't have any control over them. Whereas what you have control on is all your internal things, which are your strengths and weaknesses. And on this, for example, when I talk about the skill sets, it's really the below 2 quadrants to face the situations which come through opportunities and threats. And what I really feel, and I would like to sort of appeal to the young engineers, that let us look at this COVID-19 and post-COVID-19, post-pandemic, that we have certain challenges which will be thrown open. You will be reading in the literature so many things that people think that the world order will change. There are already in India, for example, people are migrating back. There is a problem of casual workers. They don't know what to, they have huge questions and they are living day by day. They do not know what kind of livelihood, whether they can sort of will be absorbed by agriculture, for example. So this is a challenge really, or an opportunity really, for example, for the ag engineers. I mean, can we sort of look after, can we take care of the problems faced by these migrants who are sort of, who had moved, for example, for certain jobs and situations from rural areas to urban areas. So typically this was called by, Abdul Kalam, our ex-president, had called this as rural urbanization. Can we go to the next slide? And next slide, please. And the same thing, for example, in an article which appeared in last week in Indian Express by one of the known scientists of India, Dr. Anil Kakodkar. And he calls the same concept of rural urbanization as silage. So he combines, for example, city and village. And can we sort of bring the education and can we face this challenge? So let me just read this, for example. He said that the whole article is there, and I think my slides will be shared. You can read this article in Indian Express. And what he says, Dr. Kapotkar says that, the education needs to be holistic. The research and technology and development and management of it must enable the the rural livelihood enhancement and technology enabled rural enhancement. And although the author says that it would take a while, for example, it is easy said than done, that it would be sort of quite a challenging task and a stupendous task to get the rural youth to become empowered enough to convert the challenges into opportunities in rural areas. So, are we really ready as engineers, for example, to build our skill sets? Can we go to the next slide? So, when I say about the skill sets, what are those skill sets? So, I have categorized the skill set into two parts. One really are kind of soft skills, as you call it, and those are called analytical skills. And the second category is hands-on, or I would call it as a hard science or hard engineering. So in the soft science, what you have is like, quantitative skills, where you sort of use your, knowledge in Excel and MATLAB and things like that. And whereas in the sort of hard science or hard engineering, you design, for example, you use the components, the electronics, electrical engineering, as what was talked about in the webinar of second day. So if you can take me to this link to give you an example of soft skills or analytical skills. So if, for example, the farmers ask you the questions like, based on the climate or based on the meteorology, what will be a likely sowing window for me? Because the Kharif season, for example, is coming. Month of May, people prepare their lands in many parts of India so that in the June, the onset of monsoon, the things are ready for sowing, for example, the Kharif crop. So what would be a likely sowing window? Should I sow a short season or a full season variety? Will there be a drought, and when? And will there be enough rain? Is there any forecasting? How will it spread? And when will I harvest? So these are some of the questions that our farming friends, our farmers ask. And for that, for example, what you need from your analytical skills is like you can sort of plot them that, in most of the, in India, for example, you have May, June, July, August, September is something when you get your rainy days, for example, or dry days between rains. And then what was the temperature, what was the radiation? And so all those, for example, your electronic stuff, for example, earlier people used, I think on the second day, Mr. Barure told you about the mercury in glass thermometer. But however, if we want to do, for example, the automatic recording through a meteor stations, you have to use things like thermocouples, you have to use things like sort of temperature measurements and humidity measurements and radiation measurements and do these kind of plottings. Can we just run through the next two slides, and that will illustrate further the sort of, okay, all right, I think I wanted to show the other two slides, but it doesn't matter. So this, for example, these two sets of skills, I have put it in a stem leaf model. So what is the stem and leaf model? So stem means science, technology, engineering, mathematics, as we said, hard skills, and leaf means languages, environment, arts, and finance. Since all of you are from closer to agriculture field, you understand one cannot exist without the other. While the leaf does its photosynthesis and provides, for example, the stems cannot do the photosynthesis, but it provides the structural stability for the plant and for the leaf to be whole there. And what I have put, for example, the root is nothing but your family, friend, and social support system. So this is what I call it as in your skills, the stem, leaf, and root model. Next slide, please. So as we say problematics or the problem definition, what you're going to get through your sort of employment, if you have, for example, if you are an entrepreneur yourself, and if you want to do a problem solving, what are the steps, for example? So you find out the need first, identification of a problem, analysis of a cause, analysis of possible solution, and action planning. And as we say, for example, what our social scientists tell us, that never ever do sort of, that arrogance of an engineer saying that I know everything, I have come with a problem. This is the problem that you are facing, and I have come with a solution and adopt this solution. There's a very less likelihood that that your particular solution will be adopted and applied. So what they say that in your sort of approach, you should be always, it should be appreciative inquiry added to it. Building the systems, innovating along with your stakeholder, along with the farmer, because he also knows few things. You need to sort of be cognizant of that and dialogue with him and develop a solution. What the social scientists call it as conduct what you call as PRA techniques and focus group discussions and things like that. Next slide, please. So there is some from for your soft skills, you have, as I said, you are in the right time, or you are in the time when your literature review or study of the problems has become so easy. You get some data like this. We say, for example, 66% of the world's population to live in urban areas by 2050, and one of the index that we use is in 2014, for example, 54% already started living in urban areas. So which means it brings a challenge for the farmers. Next slide. Next slide.
Dr. Narendra Shah, just 1 second. Sorry for the interruption. I'd like to tell all the attendees as well as who are watching, today 100% training session is there. Okay, it will start in another 5 minutes. So please wait. Those who are sending me all the messages. Training session today will be conducted. Sorry, Dr. Narendra Shah, please.
That is very important.
Yeah.
Okay. So
please, that is the connect.
Right. And so, for example, what I feel, what I reflected upon post-pandemic, what could be the challenges that agriculture engineering or agro-industry system would have? We may have some changing consumer demand, because already, for example, you would have people who would have come back and joined these forces in agriculture for the livelihoods and things like that, which perhaps cannot come back to the manufacturing sector or service sector. So when we say that the world order would change, these are some of the things that are the challenges which we need to sort of, as a fraternity of ag engineering, we need to look into. What are the advances of technological advantage and what are the great dynamics that we have. Next slide, please. So one of the problems that we would be posed is like, how do we end hunger, achieve food security and improve nutrition? Because if you look at the literature, you see that still 1/3 of the malnourished children below the age of 5 still are in India. For example, on one hand, we say that India is an arrived country. We are kind of trying to be a sort of, one of the major powers. But when you see a literature like this, that 1/3 of the total malnourished children live in India, it's really, we feel pretty sorry about it. And what skill sets, for example, we need to take to the agriculture, for example. So it needs to be more productive. We have heard about, more crop per drop and more from less and things like that. Okay, so how do you sort of make it efficient? Because the land size is not going to increase, whereas the eating mouths are increasing, for example. So how can we be sustainable? How can we be inclusive? So I'm very glad that, one of the last sessions planned in this webinar is something on democratization of technology. So what the democratization of technology will be sort of dealt with, I understand, is how do you make the technology inclusive? How do you make it transparent, and how do you make it resilient? And which is particularly, for example, in today's context of resilience, it is very, very important. And in this, for example, you need to sort of have a capacity development of young ag engineers like you, so that we can take this innovation system to accelerate the sustainable and green processes to enhance the impact. Next slide, please. So to illustrate my point, I'm just citing one sort of news item which appeared in Hindu of today, and you can look at the article leisurely when you get time. What that article says is like something like 2,500 tons of fruits procured directly from farmers and distributed to households. So you have heard about models like B2B, B2C. So this is really a B2C model. The producer, for example, and you take, how do you do that? So often at times, of late, you have heard about things like FPOs, farmer producer companies or farmers clubs. And one which I can cite here is like, a Sahyadri farmer producing organization, which is in fact incidentally led by one of the ag engineer, Mr. Vilas Shinde. And I would like to appeal at this time to Dr. Indramani that like we had last year a meeting at ASPI of agricultural engineers, perhaps next time we can hold a meeting there, because he has sort of demonstrated how, for example, the small farmers' income can be sort of enhanced by using this kind of technology integrations. Next slide, please.
Dr. Shah, you have 3 minutes more.
Yeah, so what I will do now immediately is if you can pass on, so there are 4 case studies I wanted to talk about. If you can pass on the control to me, I would sort of show you the video of one of the technology, how we have done the value addition to jasmine flowers, for example, the small flower, which are from a district of Palghar, which is nearby to Mumbai. What used to happen 10 years back, that all these mogra flowers or jasmine flowers were coming through cargo flights from Bangalore to Mumbai, and there is this intervention of, some today, I mean, like 10 years back, it started with 30 farmers. Now we have something like 6,000 farmers, and these are very, very small farmers who have 2 gunthas, 3 gunthas of, very, very small farms, and they have 300, 600 plants, and they grow, and how, for example, their market chain can be improved by integrating a cold chain. I want to show this through video, if that is possible, if you can sort of.
Dr. Shah, you want video or something? You have to take control. You have to do that.
Yes, if the control can
just
be passed.
wait 1 second, yeah. Please, can you give him the...
Sir, control is all over to you.
Oh.
Only one video, please.
Oh.
Yeah, I will just show you one video.
Possible share screen to him, please. Setu, try share screen to him.
Shared, sir.
It is shared. Dr. Shah?
High value ornamental
Can you hear? Can you see?
Seen adorning women's hair and used in celebrations across India. Of all the cultivators of mogra,
Can you please share the video? Share the screen.
highest in the state's production as outreach.
You have to share the screen. Okay, we have problem, Dr. Shah. You have to share the screen. We cannot share from here. Okay. Okay, let us.
Yeah, is it okay now?
No, it's okay. Let's leave it. No problem. It's not coming. Video is not coming. Doesn't matter. I think put back the slide. You won't have something.
Right.
Conclude.
Kindly share that video with us. We will.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So let me come back to the slide now. Can I come back to the slides?
It's in your hand. Yes.
Yeah. So there are these 4 case studies. First one is like mogra flowers and how, for example, how we solved the problem which was thrown open by the small farmers. Then this is this cotton stalk, for example, which is burnt on the field because even animals don't eat it. It becomes hard like wood. So how, for example, we use the ozone technology to soften it and make an animal feed, animal nutrition out of it as a roughage, supplementation of roughage. And then also we worked on the process and product improvements in jaggery making from sugarcane. We have sort of, introduced some automation into this and improve the process as well as product definition, because jaggery is considered to be more nutrition friendly sweetening agent than white sugar. And also, for example, we have worked on some decentralized small scale seed storage units, because for large seed storage units, you have the air conditioning and dehumidification systems. However, if we can sort of, give them these sort of, farmers who could be our dealers, for example, of the seed companies who can store the seeds between the temperature of 14 to 18 degrees Celsius. So by using the Peltier effect, how you can low power consuming seed storage units. So that was another case study. So all these videos and material is available. If anybody is interested, please send me a mail. I would sort of share this material with you. So with this, I would like to end my presentation here. And of course, there are 2 challenges for the next, what is coming is, one is climate change, impact on agriculture and food. And one more problem, as I said, the nutrition mission. Next slide, please. The nutrition mission, for example, last year, the government of India gave something like 9,000 crore, and ag engineers can definitely contribute like I have done 10 years back. I have designed the system and put it in Dharavi. I think most of you would have heard about Dharavi and the problems at Dharavi. Even in pandemic, there are huge problems in Dharavi. So I have put this unit right in the middle of Dharavi. There is a science hospital, and I have designed some what you call as RUTF, ready-to-use therapeutic food. How do you manufacturing it? How do you distribute it for the children below 5 years? Thank you, Dr. Sayyed, and thank you.
Thank you. People want to see your face at least. Can you close the presentation? You come. People want to see live for a few seconds. There are some people told we want to see Dr. Narendra Shah how he looks like. Can you somebody see? Yes, true. It came to me. So I sent them. He looks handsome, and he will come online after finishing. Okay, oh, it's true. And let's have something to laugh also. And it's true what it is. I think now you can see Narendra Shah. For those who want to see, he's really handsome still. And good. I think we come back. I think people are very keen. I'm getting a lot of messages. I'm really sorry that yesterday we stopped training, and we have to now go to the training because many people are, because it was advertised as training, so everybody's very keen on training. And today we lost about 10 minutes, 15 minutes, but we'll make it up next because we do have Saturday, Sunday, we have 3 hours. We'll make it up slightly.